My name is Lauren, and OCD makes me ask scary what-if questions every day. I was about 7 years old. It revolved around my concerns about death and what was going to happen to me, whether or not I was going to be okay. I was asking my parents questions incessantly, like, what if I don't like the afterlife? And what if I'm unhappy? Eternity's a really long time. And so my parents were flummoxed. They had no idea what to do with a 7-year-old asking these kinds of questions. And my memories around it, though, like the specific pictures that live in my mind, are of me being just inconsolable in the evenings, in particular around bedtime, that these thoughts would come to me and I would be absolutely terrified. And my mother would sit there and bless her heart, she had no idea. She had no idea what she was doing, but as I was like, but what if, she would answer me over and over again that I was gonna be okay. And it never worked. It was a really, really painful time and really confusing time too, I think, for all of us, because nobody gave us a name for what it was, and nobody knew how to really support me. As I got older, my OCD actually, in some ways, evaporated. And that's not to say that I don't think it was actually gone, but the more odd concerns or excessive concerns, things that people might think of as different or odd, went away and were replaced by more day-to-day anxieties, which I had plenty of. So I've always been kind of an anxious person. I've tended toward that. And I found myself worried about friendships, worried about school, worried about being a good person, all things that we might see in OCD, but that weren't necessarily indicative of OCD. And I also struggled with an eating disorder during my adolescence. So while, again, not OCD, there certainly are similar flavors there, the fixation on getting things just right. When I got a correct diagnosis, I read through an article that was about OCD. It was given to me by my therapist. And in it, it said that the average time that it takes from the onset of symptoms to getting a correct diagnosis was 14 to 17 years. And it had been 17 years. So that statistic always has been emblazoned in my mind ever since. So I was 24 when I finally got a correct diagnosis. Lucky for me, it was in the context of evidence-based treatment. I was referred to a therapist who specialized in OCD because the person that I was working with said, I think that this might be what you're dealing with. And I felt very, very fortunate, because obviously there are a lot of therapists who wouldn't know or wouldn't necessarily think to put me in that direction. So a lot of concerns around judgment. So a lot of what ifs around what if I said something stupid, or what if they think less of me, or what if they don't like me? That comes up. I think in terms of my work, there's a lot of, am I following the legal and ethical guidelines of my trade? Am I on top of things? What if I miss something? That kind of thing. OCD tends to latch on to the things that matter most to us. So things like my career, I care very much about helping others. And so, what if you don't do it right? Or, what if you're not providing the best treatment, or those kinds of things, even though I know that I provide evidence-based care. OCD doesn't care about logic. It doesn't care about rationality, nor does anxiety. So, yeah, I mean, it can weasel its way in all sorts of fun and creative ways. And the good news is that today I know that I don't have to engage with it. I can just notice how creative my mind is and thank it for its contribution, and then continue on about my life with whatever feelings I have in tow. I guess if there's one thing that I could let people know about OCD, it's that it's possible to live a really full life in the face of having all of these thoughts and feelings. It's a larger concept too. It's not just about OCD from my perspective, but I think that has broader implications for everyone on this planet. We spend a lot of our lives running from things that make us uncomfortable, that frighten us, and as a result of that, or that make us just bring up any sort of discomfort. And as a result, we miss out on all of these things that are really important to us, that matter to us. We don't focus necessarily on being the kind of people that we want to be and showing up in the ways that matter to us. And so I think knowing that that is all possible and that we actually don't have to get rid of all of these thoughts and feelings, it's sort of a red herring. If we let them be there, then we get to get back to our lives. And I think that's been powerful in my journey. I know it's powerful in the journeys of those that I work with too. Hope for me in the context of OCD means, in the face of all of these different thoughts and feelings, that there is so much life to be lived. I think I thought for a long time that I would be trapped in my mind, and I didn't realize that I had agency around that I had some control over whether or not I was stuck in my head because it was thinking, not just thoughts. So yeah, I have to accept the fact that I'm having all of these thoughts ongoing, and that I will for the rest of my life, because again, creative brain, and I'm alive, right? And that's what alive brains do. They generate thoughts. It doesn't have to result in me spending long periods of time churning internally, trying to figure things out, trying to resolve things. Like, that's where my choice comes into play, is whether or not I take the bait, whether or not I go down the rabbit hole. And so this fear about what if I'm stuck in my head forever, interestingly enough, like I get some say in whether or not that fear comes true. The reality is that all the work that has been so supportive of me and my journey with OCD, and all the work that I do as a clinician as well, is based on evidence that was garnered in research. And from my vantage point, having evidence-based practices gives a lot of stability for people. Like, okay, we know that this is effective. We know that this is helpful. We have a lot of research backing this up, which is helpful because there's, of course, a lot of uncertainty to be tolerated in the process. So I think that research has been hugely important in terms of supporting us as, a culture in better supporting those with OCD. And I think it will continue to be so ongoing, because we don't have all the answers. ERP is highly effective. Exposure and response prevention is very effective. It's about 70% effective, but that's for people who complete treatment, knowing that there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of people who still need support, a lot of people who could use more help. I think research allows for continued hope for everyone that maybe hasn't quite found a life that's fulfilling in this process. Because of OCD, my brain loves to throw scary what-if questions at me every day. What if you're not alone? And what if research brings hope?